Raybot.
Hi, and welcome to the Shambles podcast and / video podcast. I don't know what you would call that. Welcome, on today's show we've got Eddie Pepitone, an American comedian who's currently over in London doing the Soho Theatre. He's a fantastic comedian, very poetic and angry, but quite philosophical and self-referential about all his faults, which is articulated in a very articulated, which is a new word I've just made up, in a very poetic manner. And I'm going to have a conversation with him about what he does. That's what we do here on Shambles, find out what they do, the comedians. So let's go and meet him. Welcome, Eddie Pepitone.
Hello, thank you for having me, Harry.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So let's start at the beginning.
Well, I was born a poor, very poor, no.
Well, do you remember your first gig?
Wow, my first gig, yes I do. My friends in Staten Island, which is a miserable little borough of New York City, they actually call it the Forgotten Borough. My friends in Staten Island were running a poetry series. And if there's one thing that poets need, it's humor. So they said, you know, they knew I was a funny guy, but I had never really performed publicly, and they were like, "Will you do some stand-up?" And I was so excited, and it was my first gig. It was in a house, a private house, and I remember doing material about sperm cells committing suicide and brain cells. I was into cells, like cellular. I was into the microscopic nature of reality, but I was doing things like a brain cell, my brain cells committing suicide, trying to do abstract math problems, and it was like a precursor to what I do now, because I was like, I can't concentrate on doing mathematical problems when there's so much emotional turmoil in my life, and they would jump into the medulla oblongata. I can't believe I still remember it.
Wow. And so what were you doing at the time? Had you finished college, or did you go to college?
I did go to college, and I dropped out. I kind of had a nervous breakdown, for real, in college. I just couldn't handle studying anything, because I came from a crazy, dysfunctional family, and when I went to when I got out of high school, I just wasn't ready to study. I needed to just perform, you know? So I went to college for about, I would say about 2.5, 3 years. I can't believe I never got a degree, you know? I'm such a failure in that. God damn it, Harry! Why do you bring it up? I am so sorry, folks. But Harry brought this up. But anyway,
Sorry.
So I dropped out and I started taking acting lessons in Manhattan. I started as an actor, and then I would do scenes from Harold Pinter or Death of a Salesman, and people would laugh instead of going, "Oh my God, this is very dramatic." They'd be like, and I knew, you know, when you're doing something from Pinter, I would walk in and go, "So, you're my lover," and then people would just crack up. I bet I could do Pinter now better. You know, because I've been through more trouble in my life.
People laughing at you, is that something you'd noticed before
Yes!
that? Yeah, is that sort of, when did you first notice that happening?
I was an infant. No, and my parents were like, "Oh, we made this?" No, I started, you know, again, like a lot of comedians, I think, my survival mechanism in my household that I grew up in, my dad was a Sicilian, his rage was operatic. It was kind of an unhappy household, and the way I survived was to just be very funny, you know. I was doing sets for my parents when I about 8 years old, you know what I mean?
So as I say, that was happening at home, but was there much drama outside of home, or did it all sort of take place at home?
Was there much drama?
Yeah.
Well, on Broadway, Death of a Salesman was playing. No.
It's a classic.
Classic. I don't know why. That's the only play I can think of in my life, is Death of a Salesman. I studied theater for a while. No, it was mostly in the home, but going to school was it was crazy, being a kid and just being in school. And then I just started finding out I really made my friends laugh. I was around, I would say around 10, 11. I really just started making the people I hung out with, really laugh. And I was like, wow, this is just what I do. And so I've always been a comedian. You know what I mean? Like people say, why'd you get into comedy or whatever? And it really is that cliche of like, I didn't choose comedy, comedy chose me. Mm. You know what I mean? I love saying lines like that. I didn't choose comedy, comedy chose me.
That's a bit dramatic. So
that would be funny, actually, because I'm doing a 3-week run now, not to jump ahead at the Soho, but that would be funny to go to the audience. Look, I didn't choose comedy, comedy chose me. I don't want to be here at the Soho. I've been chosen. You know the chosen people? I'm going to do that tonight. If I remember. I don't remember half the stuff I say I'm going to do.
Do you write stuff down? Like when you
Leave me alone, Harry. No. Yeah, I do. I do, but not as much as I should. My laziness at this point has taken on proportions of what is the laziest animal? I guess a sloth, because it has the word sloth in it. But no, I mean, I can be pretty lazy with that. I always say to myself, I'll remember it, and
Classic.
I don't even know what city I'm in right now.
London.
Thank you.
So like
I was in Niger. Niger.
From what I've been...
Everybody's turned off the show at home. Like, what the? We're laughing. They're like, no more. Margaret, turn it off. Betty, come on. Let's go down to the tube and just ride the tube again. I love just riding the tube at night. I'd rather not watch Deansway's podcast. He's got some idiot from the States.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, yeah. Fingers crossed.
Anyone's watching it? No, I'm sure they will. So the laughing at you, like, and being funny, like, because from the research I did, like, I thought it was going to be like a lot of laughing at you, if you know what I mean. But what I found amazing was it's like laughing with you. So like, I want to know, like, at what point did you get to where you were able to analyse what was funny about you and then put that across in a show?
You know what? I think that took me... I mean, I was instinctually doing it when I first started, but I didn't know what I was doing. It took me many years to overcome my anxiety with just performing solo. And I think it takes great courage to be a stand-up, to just put yourself out there. To put yourself out there. And the funniest thing, is when you really can expose how flawed a person you are, without feeling, because it's a very vulnerable thing to do, but without feeling completely like, oh my God, I shouldn't have talked about that, or, but I find that, it's been only, I think the last, like, I don't know how long, but like 5 years maybe, and I'm 54, like last 5 or 10 years where I can really put myself on stage and just know that it's me being on stage, and I can really, go for it.
Yeah.
And just kind of trust that I'm funny, even though I still have nights where I'm like, I don't think I'm funny. I think I'm tragic. You know what I mean?
But that level of self-analysis, so obviously you've analysed yourself for years and years. When did that breakthrough come where you were able to put it onto stage and into the context where you've got it now, would you say?
I would say the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. For whatever reason. I'm a late bloomer. I also, when I first started doing stand-up, I did it for like about, I think it was something like 5 years, and then I found it too frightening, and I started doing improv. Like, I had to perform with other people. I was doing plays, I was doing improv, I was just doing character shows. Like, now I just feel like I kind of have found myself,
And when did like proper success as a performer start for you, would you say?
I'm still waiting. No. I would say that also. I would say the last maybe 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe a little more, where I've started working in I always kind of worked in TV, like got little parts. I was always, you know, accepted into the comedy world. But I feel like in the last 10 years, I've started to build it.
And so what were you doing before that 10 years? What sort of stuff were you doing
to get by, to make money?
Yeah.
I did crazy jobs. God, for like 4 years, I did, and I'm not a construction type of guy, but I had this crazy job where I was sanding floors, you know, with high-powered machinery and installing them. You know, I would just smoke weed, you know, pot all day, and install floors and sand them and then varnish them. It was horrible. And then go to acting classes in Manhattan, in New York, you know, covered in dust. Not kidding.
Were you angry?
It'd be like, huh?
I was gonna say, were you angry about like not having made it? Did
you know what? Yeah. I didn't realize how angry I was.
Yeah.
Anger or dissatisfaction, whatever you want to call it, kind of fuels what I do. That's a tricky thing, because, you know, you want to bring joy and lightness and all this, but I kind of bring, you know, a real intensity to it, but I try to make my rage absurd. Like, I try to take my rage and bring it to cartoonish levels, you know, kind of making fun of just how anger kind of doesn't get you anywhere. And
like, has in recent years, have you been able to do more anger on stage than off stage, and has that probably benefited you a bit more, would you say?
Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah.
What were some of the sort of things you'd get angry at? Like, I bet it's quite funny, and like, you know, in hindsight, like in real life, what you get angry at in your real life.
Oh, in my real life?
Yeah,
oh my God, I was always angry at ex-girlfriends, like furious. I was furious at my dad for many years.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, you know, look, he's just another person. But I was furious at, you know, my father for trying to control me as a young guy. He wanted me to be a dentist.
Okay.
Which was insane.
Yeah.
Or a doctor. And, you know, I was trying to do what he wanted for so many years of my life, and I was crazy angry at that. Now I'm just like, you know, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, because there's a bit in the documentary about Eddie's got a documentary called
yes, it's called, I want to plug that.
Yeah.
The documentary about me is coming out in the UK this week, and it's called The Bitter Buddha, and it'll be out here digitally, you know, iTunes and some other outlets digitally, but it's been really good for me, the documentary. But tell them about
so there's a bit where he's like, I think you go back to your home in Staten Island, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's like, I tried to tell him when he was a kid that, you know, there was no route in showbiz like that, and that's before. I won't ruin what happens, but he says that bit to you, where like, so I can imagine that conversation, you know. He's like,
that was devastating.
Yeah. So what was his business? What was his?
He was a high school teacher.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was a history teacher. You know.
Yeah, because I get from seeing your act, I think you like to read. Am I right? Or
I do like to read.
I can see you're quite quite well studied, and what was your influences in that sense? Like who are like authors who've like influenced you?
You know who I really got into? I don't know if this is a bad thing or not, but Nietzsche.
Okay, so philosophy.
And I think I did, because if you read Nietzsche, he's so angry, and I totally related.
You know what?
How angry he was.
He ended up, you know, talking to a horse, didn't he? That was like, he ended up going mad.
Syphilitic?
Yeah, and he ended up mad.
Why are all the great philosophers wind up syphilitic? Imagine they all do, like Socrates, syphilitic, Spinoza, definitely syphilitic.
Yeah, because I think...
Did he wind up...
Yeah, completely mad. Yeah, completely mad. Yeah.
Well, you know, I have realized too that you have to balance. You can't live in the mind. Like, that's kind of an oxymoron, like, because we do live up there, but you have to kind of, you know, try to not think so much. Like, my happiest days are when I could just get out of the ridiculous thinking patterns that just go in a loop. Like, Eddie, you're a failure. Eddie, you're a failure. Look at this. Where the hell are you? Where the hell are you? Where the hell are? What the hell are you doing? Where are your reading glasses? What the hell? All that nonsense. It's when you can escape the mind. Which is why I started meditating.
Okay.
And which is why I have the nickname, the Bitter Buddha, because I meditate, yet I am still pretty angry. So hence the Bitter Buddha.
But because you reminded me of, I definitely saw elements of like a Bukowski.
Someone said that to me recently too.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that.
No.
Well, he was a major alcoholic.
Yeah, that's true. But I thought that you say you're blue collar.
Yeah.
A bit, and he was like sort of a poet of the people.
True.
Do you know what I mean?
True. So I do
the
like that
similarity
actually.
I sort of saw. And a bit Harvey Piker as well. Do you know him?
Someone told me, I've gotten that too. Harvey Piker. I've read Bukowski and I like a lot of it. Some I'm like,
Yeah.
But Piker, I saw the movie about him.
Mm-hmm.
Was it American Hero?
Yeah, American Splendor.
American Splendor, right. Buddy of mine, Judith Friedlander, was in that.
Oh yeah, cool, yeah. He's really good in that.
But Piker he did graphic novels?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to check him out more.
Yeah.
Because I've been gotten that, and I'm like, what?
And then the other similarity, I mean, obviously you're both completely unique, but another similarity is he was like always on Letterman, and you've got this bit where...
I'm on Conan.
Yeah, you're on Conan, and...
I have to look up, can you look up Piker? Can I look up Piker on YouTube?
Yeah. His Letterman appearances, but he was like, he got... Like the network got rid of him basically because he was too like angry, and he would come on and do like political protests about the network and stuff like that. Like he used it.
Yeah.
He really like.
See, that's the direction I like to go into, but I realize the networks they're just so like, no, we can't do that. You know what I mean? And it angers me because I just feel like, I've always had I've always been angry at authority. You know what I mean? And I want to express it, and the comedian wants to express it to a big audience, and the biggest audience is television.
Yeah.
But you have to, if you're going to be on, like, Piker got kicked off.
Yeah, for taking it to that level.
I want to check that out, though.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. So, like, the activism side of your act, and do you take that outside of your act at all?
Does what?
The activism and, like, anti-corporations, that sort of stuff. Is that something that you do outside of your act, like go to protests and stuff like that?
I do. When the Occupy movement was happening in the States, I went there in New York, and I went there in LA, but it never really grew big. And there's always this fear thing in the state of the police. It's like, holy shit, in LA it's very wild. There's police helicopters in the sky, and so I'm always like, I'm into that, but there's always a part of me too that's like, well, maybe we should just have a skinny latte today and just hang out in a coffee shop instead of...
Yeah,
because I'm 54, I feel like I'm a little too old to go to jail.
Okay.
Jail isn't as comfortable as
how do you think
my
you do
apartment.
in jail?
Not well. I'd be the guy they just pass around like a cigarette. Comedy chose me. You understand me? I don't know who you people are who watch this guy. But anyway, I often do that too. Like, I'll be in the middle of saying things and I just kind of want to stare at... I do that in the crowd too. Like, sometimes I'll be yelling at the crowd and going, "Don't you people look at me!" Even though I'm the stand-up. "Don't look at me!" And then I just break out of it. Like these bursts of craziness.
Yeah. So, like, the improvisation in your act was also, like, amazing. What percentage would you say of your act is, like, improvised?
When I'm really having fun, I would say it can be as much as 60-70%. When I'm really having fun, 80%. When I'm really like, okay, I'm doing my show, I have to do, and then it may be only, 20, 30, whatever.
Yeah.
But when I'm really comfy and having fun, I love to improvise all over the place. I feel like, my material, like my set list is there, and I feel like that's a starting point,
And do you think your acting and improv training, like, geared you up to be better at that?
Yeah, I think especially, yes, for sure. Because when I first started improvisation, I was like, oh my God, this this is really scary, but now I love it, you know? And acting definitely, because stand-up, it's theatrical.
Yeah.
I really admire the comedians who can just really, speak their stuff very well, but mine is more theatrical.
And I think in order to improvise it at its best, I think you need to be inspired by stuff that goes on. So where do you get your inspiration from in day-to-day life, would you say? Both sort of culturally and also in stuff that goes on.
Yeah, I think it's just living, just being in cities, and it's interesting because I live in Los Angeles now. And to me, New York, where I'm from, I live in LA now about 11 years, and it's a much more vibrant city. And London is really cool. This is my first time in London for real, and it's a very vibrant city. And there's so much going on. There's so much to see. There's so much to get inspired by. Where LA, it's a little more difficult because it isn't like a big walking city. You're in the freaking car.
Yeah.
So I don't feel as inspired. And you kind of have to get your inspiration from within, and then the media, the internet and checking out stuff, what the hell is going on in the world, but it isn't as immediate.
So what do you do? Do you watch a lot of films? Do you find?
I love
do you
film.
The internet or reading? I'm trying to get at I
love films, and I don't know what my biggest influence is, but certain authors inspire me. My favorite author has always been Henry Miller.
Okay.
Do you know Henry Miller?
He's
from
a
Brooklyn. No, that's Arthur Miller.
Arthur Miller.
Yeah, you're thinking Deathly Salesman.
Yeah, that's because Death of the
Salem Witch Trials.
Yeah.
The Crucible, that was called. But no, Henry Miller he got famous for Tropic of Capricorn and Tropic of Cancer because they had a lot of sex in them, but he's a brilliant writer, and he's from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I'm from Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn, then we moved to Staten Island because my dad thought that was the country. It had a few trees. But Henry Miller talks about how Brooklyn is a shithole and I'm gonna get out of Brooklyn, and he wound up living in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came back to the States, but he's always been a big influence to me because his writings were about overcoming tremendous adversity. He went through so much, so I was related to that, and always about getting out of Brooklyn and that.
Did he have loads of wives?
I think he had 2 or 3.
Yeah, because I think I saw a documentary about
There's
him
a
recently.
movie about him. Recently?
Yeah, on Sky Arts or something like that. Did he have a Japanese wife or something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
I think I saw about 10 minutes of it.
Anais Nin, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
I don't think they were married, but they had an affair. But really, sort of.
And he lived quite a long time, right? I think.
Yeah. He lived pretty old, 80, something like that. Yeah.
So you relate to overcoming adversity. And
Yeah.
What are some of your adversities?
Well, I just think, coming from lower middle class roots, I never had any kind of my adversity kind of family stuff. My mom was diagnosed manic depressive or bipolar disorder, and she went in and out of institutions, hospitals when I was a little kid. So that kind of adversity, just kind of overcoming a household that wasn't as loving as it could be, and I never got a lot of encouragement to go into show business. You know what I mean? My dad was like, no way, no fucking way, not fucking show business, you know what I mean?
And I imagine early on as well, there wasn't much encouragement from the audience, right?
Stand-up is a difficult process,
Yeah.
I admire the guys, or envious of the guys who can do it really, and women who can do it really quickly out of the gate.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. To me, it takes a long time.
I think I haven't seen your early stuff from 20 years ago, but definitely from where you're at now, it's you're an amazing performer. So I'm just wondering what it was like 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was just a lot more unsure of itself and kind of all over the place,
But I suppose you met a lot of people who are now as well, sort of doing quite well. So what was it like, sort of in those days? What sort of people were you sort of gigging with who are now also?
Well, I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it because it's like being a soldier. I would imagine. I've never been a soldier, but I'd imagine it's like the camaraderie. Camaraderie, because I've heard many stand-ups talk about stand-up. It's like going to war. You know what I mean? Like the audience, and this is really kind of fucked up, but the audience is the enemy. And it's like you're going to war. Like, all right, how are they tonight? Yeah, not very good. I'm going in there. Cover me. But you get to be really, there's a bond.
Yeah, so who are you in the trenches with?
Who was I in the trenches with? Just a lot of, you know, a lot of, you know, some people I've stayed in touch with, some people, you know, I've lost touch with, but a bunch of New York guys and women, you know. And then now I've got the new group in LA, you know.
Your new friends?
Yeah.
And what about acting?
You know what? I love to act, and I want to do more television where I'm doing drama. You know, because I love drama. Because you know, they say that comedy is like a razor thin line, but like the line between tragedy and comedy is like razor thin, and I really think that's true. You know, and I think comedy is just all about, you know, overcoming that lurking tragedy, you know what I mean? So and I've trained as an actor, so I would like to do more dramatic stuff, and hopefully because of the exposure of the doc about me, The Bitter Buddha, you know, people will see, you know, more from me, and I'll get a chance to do more drama. But I've actually, and you know, I mentioned Pinter, and I used to do like scenes from Pinter, like The Lover and Homecoming and stuff, and I would love to do a play. You know, I'd love to do a play.
What's your dream part? Say in a play.
Have
you got a favourite play?
I don't know.
No?
Maybe at this point, Willy Loman.
Yeah, you'd be great. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, but I also love great comedy plays too. Like I like a guy named Christopher Durang. I don't know if you know Durang.
No.
He does really funny stuff. I used to do some David Mamet. I did Glengarry Glen Ross. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I just love doing all that stuff.
Glengarry Glen Ross, you'd
Yeah.
be the Jack Lemmon role, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? No, I just need a lead. I need a lead. Just please. Why are you laughing?
Alright, quickly as well, I wanted to speak about like, because obviously the comedy's overtaken the acting, am I right?
Yeah.
Saying that, so when did that happen? Did the like?
Well, like I said, you know, people were laughing when I was doing drama, so that happened kind of pretty early.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But I've still done some dramatic stuff, but I would say that happened pretty early on. You know, where comedy obviously was my focus, but I would say in the last 15 years, I really have kind of dedicated myself with focus to really being a comedian. Where I think before that, I always knew I was a comedian, but I think I had a lot of personal doubt about it, and the business was so hard that it was difficult for me to stay like laser focused. And now I know, you know, that this is what I do. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, was there a particular moment where you got that strength where you went, okay, I can do this? Do you remember it?
You know, I don't think it's a moment.
No?
I really think, you ask me, it's all about perseverance.
Yeah.
And then you persevere, and then you're like, oh, wow. You know, I kind of am at a certain place that I didn't, you know, like in spite of my disbelief.
Yeah.
You know, because I've always battled my demons are, you know, lack of self-confidence, self-loathing, all of that stuff. You know, and finally, if you persevere through that, you're like, okay, yeah, I guess I'm a comedian.
And do you feel like you've got that under more control as you've become a better
You know,
comedian?
I do, but I have bouts of
Really?
Tremendous self-doubt. Like, for instance, you know, I'm doing the run here at
Yeah.
the Soho, and it's been great. And the Soho Theatre is great, and the audiences in London are great. You know, tonight is night 3, and I did Edinburgh last year, and I had really success. And I've done Oslo. I did a festival. I've done Dublin, but there are still tremendous moments for me of just doubt, fear. I don't know what that is. Like, I read somewhere that a lot of artists think they're imposters.
Okay.
That's like a thing that a lot of artists go through. They think they're frauds. you know, and I feel that sometimes, like I'm not, like, and I don't know, you know, why I can still feel that, but I think because, you know, being any kind of artist is very ethereal. It's very kind of like, you know, the muses, you know, you were talking about what inspires you, you know, the muses living as an artist. It's very kind of intangible sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not in control. Like, your best ideas, I find, you can sit down at a computer and try and write something, but the best stuff strikes you like lightning.
Yeah, and then a lot of times, too, I'm like, who am I? Like, here's the thing that always comes up for me. Who am I to think that I can be an artist when my parents had such a shitty life and people have to just work in shitty jobs and the world is shitty? Who am I to think I am above it? You know what I mean? Which is a crazy way of thinking, because I think the real artist isn't above it. He's just someone who speaks, you know, for it. This is probably going to seem really pretentious, all this shit. Anyway, what I think an artist is, and believe me, being an artist isn't easy. Sitting, drinking coffee, worrying about my art, while you, the masses, toil. I am doing the real toiling for you.
Well, joking aside, it is a massive commitment.
My arm fell asleep.
Did it?
I'm so neurotic. I'm like, oh my God, my arm fell asleep. Yeah, just leaning like this.
Oh my God. It is hard, though, to dedicate your life to being an artist.
Yeah, I think so. You know what I've been suffering? When I travel overseas, you know what the worst thing for me is? I have insomnia.
Oh, no.
And it's like I thought I had my schedule, because jet lag and stuff, and I can get into this pattern of insomnia. And I thought, you know, I had it beat, but last night I just was up till like I think it was about 5 or 6 in the morning.
Blimey. Well, you've got jet lag as well, I guess.
I guess so. But that's a difficult thing, and then the demons come big time. You know what I mean?
All right, should we move on to the quickfire?
Oh yeah, Quickfire. Yeah.
Welcome to the quickfire section. What makes you laugh?
What makes me laugh? Silly stuff makes me laugh. To be British about it.
Yeah.
Douglas Adams makes me laugh. Stuff that is very dark in its roots, but then you know, like I also recently saw a guy named Paul Foot.
Oh yeah.
And he's so absurd. Monty Python makes me laugh. I don't know. Tragedy makes me laugh.
Tragedy,
too.
yeah. Do you laugh? Are you a big laugher?
I am a big laugher.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Who don't you get comedy-wise? Is there someone who you're like, I don't get it?
Who don't I get?
Yeah. Is there anyone out there who you're like, I don't get it? Who's like doing really well, and you're like, I don't get it.
Aziz Ansari.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Jeff Dunham.
The world's most successful comedian, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. Richard Pryor, Bill Hicks, or Jerry Seinfeld?
Oh, definitely. I'll give you the order of that one. Pryor, Hicks, and then way below that would be Seinfeld.
But pick one would be Richard Pryor.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. What's the best gig you've ever done?
Ooh, best gig I've ever done. Well, I think the show I felt most satisfied at was in Oslo, believe it or not.
Okay.
During something called the Crap Comedy Festival in January, I had a show in Oslo where it felt really good.
So Scandinavian, that's
You
your
believe
audience. Yeah.
I was really nervous about that too. I was like, how are they going to get me?
Yeah, apparently the gigs over there are amazing.
Yeah.
I've had like really good things from people. What's the worst gig you've ever done?
Wow, the worst gig I've ever done, probably some pub or bar in, in the suburbs in New York where people were just looking at me. I'm up there screaming, and they're like, "What the fuck is it?" And early in my career, when I'm like, "This is."
Have you ever had anyone like remonstrate with you either on stage or off stage? And
Yeah.
being like, really?
Yeah. You mean being angry at me from the audience?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Usually drunk, people who are drunk, and then I'll get angry at them for ruining my show. and it usually gets a little nasty, you know. But then I run away after the show. I jump in my car.
You're off.
I'm off.
Funniest person you know who doesn't work in comedy?
Oh wow, that's a good one. Funniest person I know who doesn't work in comedy. I guess, God, that's a good question. Who would that be? Well, just my mates, my friends that I hang out with. This guy Barry Murphy. He's just my friend, and he was a bartender and for years, and now he does like construction. So funny, just hilarious guy. Like just the way he deals with life is just hilarious.
Oh, cool, man. And if you weren't a comedian, what would you be doing, do you think?
I think I would be a stripper, a male stripper.
I think you make a lot of money from that.
I don't know. I would like to be, if I wasn't a comedian, a professor.
Okay.
I'd still be in front of people, expounding on things, something like that. Teacher, professor.
And finally, what's your favourite comedy club to play?
Right now it's the Soho Theatre in London.
It's a good room.
It is really a great room. That one right now, I really, really like it.
Yeah.
In the States, I love, there's the Punchline in San Francisco is great. I've done a couple of places that are really nice over there.
Awesome. All right, so we can see it at the Soho Theatre from the 3rd of May, 6th of May, which has happened, to the 25th. So, and also Bitter Buddha will be available on iTunes, I imagine.
Yeah, Bitter Buddha, the documentary about me will be available on iTunes this coming week. And
you're on Twitter, so look.
I'm on Twitter at Eddie Pepitone. I have a podcast with 3 other people called The Long Shot. That's about it. Come like my Facebook fan page if you'd like.
Yeah, and we'll put all these links up as we go along.
My website is eddiepepitone.com.
Awesome. Thanks for being
here. Thanks for having me. Thank you, Harry.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Bye, everybody.
Have you got any questions for me?
For you? No.
Oh, sorry, that's a bit rude. Okay. Cool, well,
Can I go?
Yeah, sure.